reproduction, as our Honorable Vice Chancellor has also said, that reproduction is extremely important and there cannot be any production without reproduction. So I welcome all the participants to this e-course, and I wish that they have a nice time enjoying this e-course, and we will try our level best to deliver something very useful for them. Now, when I was asked to design a course on e-course on the infertility management, particularly in reference to Rajasthan, I was really amazed, and I thought I must first know myself about Rajasthan, and I tried to gather some information about Rajasthan, which really I was not knowing about it. The population of Rajasthan, according to the 2011 census, maybe I will not be taking much of your time, stands at about 68 million, making it the 8th most populated state in India. And Rajasthan is the largest state of India in terms of land area, spreading across 3,42,239 square kilometers. So we are in a very big state, and then you can see here we have the Western Plains desert, and then the Ghaggar Plains, the Shekhawati region, the Bangar Plains, then the green belt of the Aravallis, the Eastern Plains, and the Hadoti region. So then the number of districts in Rajasthan are 33, the number of divisions are 7, and it was amazing for me to know that the number of revenue villages, including the census town, is 44,794. So this is a very big number. And then the rural population of Rajasthan is nearly three times the urban population of people in Rajasthan. This picture shows a typical dhani of Rajasthan, wherein people live in dhanis, and animal husbandry is their core source of livelihood. Then, as far as the bovine population is concerned, there has been increase in the bovine population for indigenous cattle. In 2007 census, the number of indigenous cattle were 11.3, and marginally they have increased to 11.6. The crossbred, they have just doubled from 2007, where they were 0.8 million, and they have increased to 1.7 million in 2012. The number of buffaloes is also on the increase. 11.1 was in 2007, and this has increased to 13 million in 2012. Now, you can see the buffaloes are producing a large amount of milk, and probably this animal needs plenty of focus. Now, Rajasthan has 3 breeds which have their home tract here, the Rathi, and the Tharparkar, and then the Nagori. There are other breeds which are also raised in Rajasthan, which include the Gir and the Haryana. Buffaloes are not native to Rajasthan, but Murrah buffaloes, you can see in this picture, which was mentioned in a DB report, that how much part of Rajasthan harbors a large number of Murrah buffaloes. Then in some parts of Rajasthan, of course, there are the Surti buffaloes, the Udaipur region, the Hadoti region, and some other parts, the buffaloes are raised. I was really very happy to see that the veterinary infrastructure, veterinary institutes, as per the Animal Husbandry Annual Report of 2018-19, there are 7,795 veterinary institutes and 2 semen production centers, one at Bassi and another at Jodhpur. There are 6,728 AI centers, and AI is being performed widely. As per the Animal Husbandry Report, in 2018-19, 44.40 lakh AI have been performed. So this is a great number. And Now, I come to the actual topic, that why actually owners seek professional reproductive help. You see, owners seek professional reproductive help for basically what I have understood for four basic reasons. Artificial insemination started in 1954 in our college, and then under the key village schemes, there were a lot of other uh, opportunities which were started by the government of Rajasthan. I will not be focusing on artificial insemination because we have another expert to deliberate on this tomorrow. And then the second condition wherein farmers seek veterinary advice, I think this is the weakest point. They seek advice very little on pregnancy diagnosis, but pregnancy diagnosis is very important. Then the third condition probably is therapy for any infertility, and maybe the last one is the obstetrical help. Now, as far as pregnancy diagnosis is concerned, the approach for pregnancy diagnosis in the field still today continues to be the transrectal palpation. And I think most of you are very efficient in performing the pregnancy diagnosis using the transrectal approach, wherein at the standards that have been fixed by the government of Rajasthan, that 2 to 3 months you must perform, and you can find the enlargement of one of the uterine horn, a resilient feeling, a fetus inside, and the very important aspect over here is that there is ignorance and lack of awareness amongst farmers for pregnancy diagnosis. We, as a veterinarian, it's our prime role to educate them that once they have got their animals inseminated, or maybe they have got them mated with natural service, at 2 to 3 months, they must bring their animals for pregnancy diagnosis. What happens is that the animal, maybe it has stopped coming into estrus, and the animal owner, he presumes that the animal is probably pregnant. This leads to losses to the animal owner, and it is our part of duty to educate them that they must get in their animals diagnosed for pregnancy. If the animal is pregnant, there is nothing to worry. But if the animal is not pregnant, he must get some therapy for their animal. So this is where then, in spite of a lot of developments, maybe transrectal ultrasonography is now available, and I was happy to talk to some of my colleagues who said that many veterinary hospitals in Rajasthan do have transrectal ultrasonography. Besides that, the development of diagnostic kits or maybe diagnostic tests, as they have been developed for other species, are still far from perfect. And the only test that shows that has shown some promise is the assay of the pregnancy associated glycoproteins. Hopefully, we will have some kits which are cost effective in times to come, and then maybe the veterinarians and the animal owners may be easily able to perform these pregnancy diagnostic tests. But we need, I think, we will require some time before these tests are available to the field vets and to the veterinarian performing the pregnancy diagnosis tests. Now, coming back to the today's topic, the bovine infertility. Infertility, maybe it is now known as subfertility, and subfertility is one of the biggest cause of pregnancy failures in cattle and buffaloes as well. Now, I'll not be talking in detail about the different problems that the vets face. The anistrus, which is the biggest rural problem, and it is more related with nutrition, but what we can suggest to the farmers is that in areas where they do not have an access to green fodder, maybe they should feed them with mineral mixtures. This very simple will help them improving the fertility rates or bringing their animals into estrus. Then another major problem is repeat breeding. Repeat breeding is more in cattle and less in buffaloes. And if we wish to consider repeat breeding in buffaloes, we should consider it during the breeding season, because beyond the breeding season, when buffaloes are having problems during the hot summer months, they are going to have these problems because of the heat stress. And then our next speaker, he will be narrating, Dr. Mitesh, he will be narrating about the variances which have increased with the crossbreeding and with animals having very high, exceptionally high milk production. Now, a lot of infertility camps are being organized by us also and by our colleagues in the field. And we had been treating cattle for a long time, bringing them into estrus, treating them for any reproductive health problems or maybe for other reasons. The suggestion for infertility camps is that there should be a follow-up. If we treat the animals for one day and then if we do not follow them, then we will not know the outcome. And then I was happy to see the animal husbandry report, which mentions that पशु चिकित्सा शिविरों में 77 लाख पशु लाभान्वित किए गए। ये बहुत बड़ी संख्या है। और लेकिन इसमें जो है बांझपन निवारण अलग से मैंने नहीं शो किया है, but this is a big figure showing that the animal husbandry department of government of Rajasthan is really very worried about the treatment and infertility of the animals. Then one thing which as a vet is our important role, adoption of the reproductive hygiene. You see, many a times if we do not adopt the reproductive hygiene, we may ourselves contract the disease, or maybe we may spread the disease also. And it's important imparting knowledge to the farmers with awareness that they should be aware of these things. These two things, I think, would be very important. Then as far as obstetrical health is concerned, many a times the paravets and owners themselves handle the difficult births. Now here I would like to say that many a times the animal owners may seek help, as you can see in this picture, that they may seek help as to when this animal is going to parturient. Exact depiction or exact prediction of the time of birth is beyond the scope of any vet. But we can give them some precise time, or maybe 2 to 4 days, or 3 to 5 days, or 5 to 7 days, based on the findings that we find in cattle. Then another problem with the farmers is that during the delivery of the fetus, the farmers, when the first water bag appears, then and when it ruptures, as you can see in this buffalo, the first water bag has appeared. But when this ruptures and the second water bag wrapped in, the fetus wrapped in amnion, the fetal legs are at the birth canal, he is worried and he will invariably pull the fetus. This is undesirable, because let the animal complete its parturition on its own. One must wait for at least for half an hour to 1 hour for the second stage of labor to complete and the fetal delivery be completed. But if there is some gross problem, then yes, of course, one can help. But usually what happens when the fetal legs appears, the farmer, he pulls the legs, and where the legs of the fetus are slippery because of the amniotic fluid, the fetus, he pulls his leg back, and this converts a normal delivery into a difficult birth. So farmers should also be trained about this, and then unnecessary interventions should be discouraged. And one thing which the farmers should be strongly suggested is that use of soil in pulling a calf should be strongly discouraged. This may deliver the fetus at once, but this will create problems at a later time, which the farmer will not be able to correlate that this originated because I use soil in pulling the fetus. This should be strongly discouraged. Then I find many our fellow vets performing the operative procedures in the field. I am very happy to know about that. But those of you who are not having facility, you can for operative procedures, especially for cesarean sections, it's a true emergency where the owner would require your help, and you can perform the surgeries by even when medical people, when they start their rural practice, they are sterilizing their instruments using a pressure cooker. So I strongly suggest that you can generate the facility. Once you relieve the dystocia by performing a cesarean section, owners will have faith in you, and later on you can upgrade your facility. So I request all of you to, if you are not having the facility, you can generate the facility, and it is you who are qualified to perform that. Then transrectal ultrasonography, it's one of the easiest approach of ultrasonographic diagnosis. The abdominal one, it's a difficult one, but the transrectal ultrasonography appears to me as the easiest approach for the pregnancy diagnosis, for evaluation of the uterine health, or maybe the ovarian health, or a small ultrasound probe is enclosed in a sleeve and inserted in the rectum. You can place it directly over the ovaries, and you can see these are the follicles. The same probe, it can be used for pregnancy diagnosis. Here you can see the fetal fluids and the fetus itself. And then in advanced pregnancy, you can see the cotyledons. These two are the ultrasound pictures of pathologies. This one is a sonogram of a cow which was having pyometra. You can see the echogenics, the fluid, anechoic fluid, and echogenic specks, which are clearly visible. Then you can see this one, a ovarian cyst, which is having a very large diameter, and one can diagnose very easily. Transrectal ultrasonography would be a boon for the small animal reproductive diagnosis, and anybody can learn reproductive ultrasonography with a bit of practice. You need not to have a lot of expertise. You can learn it, at least the routine reproductive procedures, you can learn it very easily without much problem. Then there are a lot of talks on the advanced reproductive technologies, the embryo transfer. We had a project in our department, and in 1998 we were able to produce the first embryo transfer calf. This picture, the I foresee that embryo transfer is not a very critical or very difficult approach, but the problem is that the ovulatory responses are widely variable. And when I was reading a review from Dr. Haesler, who is considered one of the pioneers of embryo transfer, he said in his review that 20 years back, we were not able to minimize the variability in the superovulatory response, and we are still there. We are still there. So the problem is with the ovulatory response, a lot of approaches have been used, and hopefully we will have more and more newer approaches wherein we can reduce the variability in the ovulatory response. And with the advent of newer technologies, or newer researches, maybe we will be more precisely able to regulate the ovulation in dairy cow. These are the pictures showing how actually the superovulation is being done and the embryos are being recovered. The superovulation is essentially done using the follicle stimulating hormone, and then the animal is given a dose of prostaglandin, it returns to estrus, it is mated or inseminated with a highly fertile semen, and then the donor animal's uterus is flushed with the Delbecque's phosphate buffer saline to retrieve the embryos. They are searched in the laboratory, and in this picture you can see a lot of embryos recovered from the donor cows. This is one of the cow which gave us a 24 embryos in one flush, but unfortunately many of them were having some or other problem, and they did not, most of them did not result into a pregnancy. Then embryo can be transferred using a AI gun, but one can even use the embryo transfer gun. Then in vitro fertilization, the Raymond Center, they have done a lot of work, and they are probably going to start some state centers at many locations wherein they will collect the oocytes from the prospective donors and will then produce the embryos for transfer. For the technique that is used is ovum pickup, is known as OPU, a transvaginal ultrasound guided needle is inserted inside, and it pierces the vagina, reaches the ovary, and sucks the oocyte within the follicle. The oocyte is then put to maturation in small micro drops of culture media, and these petri dishes are then placed in a CO2 incubator. After 24 hours of in vitro maturation, the sperm is prepared, and then the oocyte and sperm are co-incubated and placed in the CO2 incubator again. After 24 hours, then this extra sperm is washed off, and oocytes are then kept in a CO2 incubator. And in 5 to 7 days, one can find the morula or the blastocyst stage of the embryos. Then another technique is the sex semen technology. Dr. Watson, he was the first who performed the sex semen, and he found that female sperm contained 4% more DNA than the male sperm. And he developed a technique, what is known as the flow cytometry. In flow cytometry, DNA stained sperm is injected into the flow cytometer, and the crystal vibrator breaks stream into individual droplets. The sperm pass in front of a laser beam, stained DNA emits fluorescence. Fluorescence is measured, and a positive or a negative charge is applied to each single droplet. The sperm pass between charged deflector plates. The positive droplets go to one direction, and the negative ones go to another direction. And one can have the sex semen, the male and the female. The female, obviously, is the preferred semen in dairy cattle and buffalo. और मुझे ये जान के खुशी हुई कि राज्य के झुंझुनू जिले में पायलट प्रोजेक्ट के तहत होस्टिंग गोवंश के मादा सेक्स सॉर्टेड सीमन का भी उपयोग किया जा रहा है। इस हेतु बायो डेवलपमेंट रिसर्च फाउंडेशन पुणे से मादा सेक्स सॉर्टेड सीमन क्रैक किया गया था, और प्रोजेक्ट अंतर्गत वर्ष 2018-19 एवं 2019-20 में 501 कृत्रिम गर्भाधान किए जा चुके हैं, जिनसे प्राप्त 93 गोवंश वत्स उत्पादन में से 86 मादा वत्स पैदा हुई। This is the animal husbandry report, and I am very happy to have, you see, with the use of sex semen, the conception rates with the adult cows are comparatively low. When you use it in the first calf heifers, the pregnancy rate are obviously higher, and to the tune of 40 to 50% sometimes. And when you are using the sex semen, you have to place it deep into the uterus. Instead of placing it in the cervix, you will have to place it deep into the uterus. So hopefully we will have more and more research, and we will have more sorted semen available so that we can have the females, more and more of the females, and obviously males also, with a limited number of males and a wider number of the females. Then estrus synchronization, our colleague, he will be detailing the estrus synchronization in subsequent lectures, and the OBSYNC protocol is one of the most common protocol. It was reported in one of the papers as the Udaipur model also, and the OBSYNC protocol.
Getting the same the PPG, that's all.
GnRH, PG, and GnRH. Then there are the PGF system, and especially when you are using the estrus synchronization in buffaloes, you need to, during the non-breeding season, you need to use a CIDR and then start the other protocols. So I hope our colleague, he will explain you in more detail about the estrus synchronization protocols in dairy cattle and buffalo. Then one thing which I am worried about you all is the incidence of brucellosis. I was reading this report of the Animal Husbandry Department, and there were samples which were positive by the milk ring test, Rose Bengal test, and ELISA test. So my suggestion to you all is that whenever you are handling a case of abortion, or maybe a case of retained placenta, then be careful. Please wear at least 2 gloves and wash your hands with a disinfectant to prevent yourself from contracting the disease. This disease can affect human beings, and there are vets who contracted this disease while handling. So be careful about brucellosis. It's a disease which can affect you and which can cause problem to you, maybe arthritis or maybe fevers and things like that. So be careful when handling cattle or buffalo which have aborted or which are having the problems of retained placenta and all. So friends, thank you very much for your patient listening. I would be glad to answer your queries, and you can contact me anytime at my email gnpobs@gmail.com. Thank you so much.